Welcome to another episode of RELICS Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting, relic, and treasure hunting. You can also call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have. RELICS Radio is also now syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. You're listening to RELICS Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are listening to another episode of RELICS Radio right here on Spreaker, and want to welcome all of our live listeners that are coming into the chat and coming on to the show on the Spreaker.com app. Also want to welcome all of our syndicated listeners that might be tuning in on the Cutting Edge Radio Network. And if you're not able to listen live and you have to pick up the archive version, welcome to you as well. You may pick that up on the Spreaker app or on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcast, really anywhere that you get your podcast. We are there. I am your host, Diggin with 7, and got a great show lined up for you tonight. Got a good friend of mine that I've been acquainted with for some time and have talked to quite a bit, and finally got her on the show tonight. I've got Diggin with Deej. Welcome to the show, Deej.
Hi, thank you very much, Lloyd, for having me on your show.
Yeah, I've looked forward to this. You know, you and I talked about trying to get together and hunt. When was that? Sometime last fall or something?
For the last couple of years, we talked about it, and I just haven't made it down there.
Yeah, you've got family that's not too far from me. Is that correct? That you come?
My oldest son is about 2.5 hours north of you.
Okay. Yeah, and
he's in Kentucky. He's near he's not far from the bridge that goes to Ohio.
Okay. Well, we've talked about that, and I've looked forward to the possibility. I want to meet and hunt with as many people as I can. And so, I welcome the opportunity. Don't know that we would find anything, but I guarantee you one thing: we'd had a good time getting out hunting. Because you're just you're just like me. Just the pursuit of it is, to get to hunt alongside somebody that you know but you've never met face to face, and that's one of the benefits of this hobby and this community in which we are in, is all the different people that we get to meet and what have you, isn't it?
Yep.
And
absolutely.
How is it that you got into the whole idea of treasure hunting or bottle digging or metal detecting? How'd you get hooked up in all this mess, Deej?
I got into it because of family history research, genealogy, and I spent some time visiting my grandfather when my youngest son was born, and he had a dump, and I was just walking the property one day. It's a small farm, and discovered an old dump, and saw a few things poking out of it, and that's how I got started. That's how I got hooked. I found 2 old clay pipes that belonged to my great-great-grandparents.
That is amazing. And, that's something that's on my bucket list is a clay pipe. You're not going to find it with a metal detector because, obviously, it's not metallic. And
right.
It's going to be one of those incidental finds like an arrowhead. I'm lucky enough to find those sometime. But, and I dig on some colonial sites, and I've always hoped that I would stumble up on one of those. But to have one that is connected to your family history is just a bonus, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I found 2 broken ones and 1 full one.
Yeah.
So, and, it means more because it belonged to my grandfather and his son.
Yeah.
And they were all pipe smokers. They came from England in the 1850s. I also found pieces to an old parlor lamp, a solid brass parlor lamp. And got those out, cleaned them up as best as I could, and then my dad sent them for a birthday present for me before he passed away. He sent them to be replated. And I have it sitting in my relic room office.
Yeah.
And that. And
now what are you talking about whenever
it has a dent in it, but it belonged to them, so it doesn't matter if it's not perfect.
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't matter if they were replated either, just belonging to them. But what are you talking about when you're talking about a parlor lamp? Are you talking about an oil lamp?
It's the same lamp that's in Gone with the Wind movie. It's got a heavy, ornate filigree base. By filigree, I mean it has slots in it where you can see through it, the pattern of it, and then it has a long brass cylinder-type shaft, and then the bowl that held the oil in it, and then what we normally dig up for lantern parts, the top of it on it, and that's all it's got. The glass was broken, of course. I've never been able to find glass for it that fits. But I believe that it also had a glass globe around the top of it with the hurricane glass coming up through the center of it.
Right,
but there's one similar to it in the movie Gone with the Wind.
Okay. Well, full disclosure, I didn't make it all the way through Gone with the Wind. I went and seen it with a girl at the movie, and I laughed before, I mean, it was a long, long movie, and even,
yes, it was.
Even with the danger maybe of her hating me, I said, I'm done, and I just got up and walked out. But the old Aladdin lamps, which my mother collected, had the glass globe, the small piece that went up through, and then it had a glass canopy,
a glass bubble over
right,
it.
Right. And so and I'm looking at the chat. These guys are crazy. He said I was hired as the wind.
As the wind.
I got to quit looking at the chat. It just gets me all bumfuzzled whenever I do that. But anyway, that was the style back then, where you would have that glass canopy over it.
Yeah.
So, it would be hard to find a replacement probably for that. But you might look in the Aladdin type stuff; it may be similar to it.
Yeah.
But wow,
I found 2 porcelain salt shakers, blue and white porcelain, very old, kind of banged up. They're not. They were thrown in the dump.
Right.
But they're from England. It's a pattern. It's an onion pattern by Meissen, I believe, or Meeson. I'm not sure how you say it. Meekin. I think it's Meekin, China.
Huh.
And that. I found those in the dump. I found lots of stuff. And since then, the farm is sold, and I can't get permission to go back.
Doesn't that just break your heart?
Yeah.
Because that's in your family history right there. And, my brother does some genealogy work. Oddly enough, I am a historian, but I've never researched my family. I guess I was always afraid of what I'd find, in my own family. But I never have done any genealogy of my family. And one of the drawbacks that we have here in the county where we live was that John Hunt Morgan, the Confederate, in his first Kentucky raid, the first battle that he had was here in my town. and he routed the 9th Pennsylvania Union Cavalry and burned our courthouse on, I guess, on his second invasion into Kentucky.
Yep.
So he burned all of our records here, you know.
Yep.
And what research that I've tried to do on stuff like that with my family, you run into a dead end, and I finally just gave up on the thing. Now, I'm sure that there are some of the modern websites now that you could probably recover some of that stuff. But, you know, I've got... Possibly. Yeah.
Hopefully, there's still church records. That might be helpful.
Well, there were so many little bitty churches, little community churches. They're still that way here. And, you know, that would have, a lot of them might have 10 or 15 members is all. But they would never consolidate, you know. They would never close down one community.
Usually what they did, and this is what I found in Michigan, researching my family while they were in Michigan. Each church didn't have their own pastor. The pastors traveled from church to church.
Right.
So they had a circuit that they would ride a horse to and hit every church.
Right.
And a lot of those records will be with the state.
Right.
That's at least in Michigan they are.
Well, and you're correct, because we've got a historic site that I live right next to. And it was a church that came in here, which was really the start of our county. It came in here around 1798. Now, they were giving out land grants to the Revolutionary War soldiers at that time, and that was the way that it was then. And I've got all of those records, but they don't include the areas where my family lived, which were across the river. And so it's all right in here. And I've, you know, in doing that book, I did 3 or 4 years of research on it, and was hoping to find something, but you know, you get into all those records, and those poor families have to read about, you know, Grandpa got disfellowshipped for this, and Grandma got disfellowshipped for that, and I thought, my goodness, I don't want to find my family in here, because I'm sure that they dumped them. Yeah. But you got started on kind of on the back end of this. A lot of people, you know, start out metal detecting, and then they advance on into dump digging or bottle digging or what have you. But
it wasn't for want of trying. I asked for a metal detector many times, and it was considered a guy's hobby when I was young.
I guess that's true, isn't it?
Yep. So, and, you know, then I got back into it. I met a guy, and I was dating a guy who was into it heavily. And we were supposed to do something one weekend, and he says, I'm going to have to cancel on you. He says, I'm supposed to meet a bunch of guys and go out metal detecting. And my eyes just lit up. I said, really? He goes, have you ever metal detected? I said, no, but I've always wanted to try. And he goes, well, I got an extra detector. You can go.
All right.
Come with me. I said, absolutely. And that's all it took.
That's all it took.
And we were hunting a property that I called the German grocer's property, because it was in a German community, and there was an old German grocery store on that property in the 1870s to 1920s, I think it was. And he would get so mad when he'd dig up these one pfennigs. And I was like, I love them things. I was thrilled every time I dug one up, you know, but he was a coin shooter. He wanted to get the silver.
Right.
And so he gave me all of his one pfennigs, because they're kind of like some people call tax tokens the Illuminati.
Right.
That's how it was with Rich. And then shortly after I started detecting with him, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I was so upset about it. I was like, oh my God, here, you know, I was buying a new house. I just bought a new house, just moved into it. And he stuck with me through all the treatments and that. And he kept saying to me, it's just another bump in the road.
Yeah.
You got to look at it like that. And I got well, and 6 months after my treatments were done, the next year, he dropped dead of a heart attack.
Ooh, terrible.
And I didn't have my own machine, and I wasn't. It took me a couple years before I was to the point where I even thought I could go out metal detecting without him.
Yeah.
And my boys asked me, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I said, "I want a metal detector." And why do you want that? Because I've always wanted one of those, and nobody takes me seriously. And I said, I want to dig up history.
Yep.
I want to leave a legacy at the museums in the communities that I belong to, the two museums, for when I'm gone.
Yep.
I want to do something to save what's in the ground before it's gone, before it's decayed away. And so the first year, my oldest son took me seriously, and he gave me 3/4 of the money for my first detector, and my first detector was a Garrett Ace 400, which I still use.
Yeah, I know that you use Ace.
And then every Christmas since, both of my sons have been buying me accessories to go with whatever I've got.
Oh, that's cool. That is cool. Hey, Deej, we need to take a commercial break, and I know that you've got something that you've got to do for just a minute. So
okay.
We'll be back in about 2 minutes right here. I'm excited to announce that Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors has rejoined RELICS Radio as a sponsor. As a multi-line dealer, Tim carries several brands of detectors and accessories, and he's ready to serve all of your metal detecting needs. I'll give you his contact info in a minute. So why did RELICS Radio go back to Tim Henderson as our dealer sponsor? 3 very important reasons. First, I often hunt with Tim, so I know firsthand that he uses what he sells, and he prides himself with great customer service and support. Second, Tim goes the extra mile in helping the new detectorist determine exactly what they need to get started. He will not try and sell you some high-priced product if that's not what you need. And at the same time, Tim can serve the seasoned detectorist with their upgrades or new product questions. And finally, Tim won't leave you hanging after the sale. He's just a phone call away for any questions or specialized training needs. So, you can call Tim directly at 615-948-4611, or you can email him at tjhenderson@comcast.net. And I see that Tim is in the chat there, and he has put his email in there, and he has also put in his phone number. Call him, send him an email, talk to him. He will fix you right up. My good buddy Tim Henderson, I know that my wife and I just got back from an anniversary trip to the mountains, and I told her, I said, I took my fins and scuba mask and everything and got in the pool a little bit there. But I told her, I said, here in a minute, I'm going to get in the hot tub over there, and I want you to take a little short video of me and just acting an idiot like I am, And I put that thing on Facebook, and Tim responded. He said, can't take him anywhere. Our youngest daughter sent my wife a text, and she said, I am embarrassed for you. But that's just the way I am. A simple man and just crazy. But also I want to mention Tim is also helping out with the first annual Middle Tennessee Diggin Bash. That's going to be Saturday, May the 9th. And if you'll go to the RELICS Radio Facebook group page and see that post on there about the Digging Bash, Tim has put a PDF in the comments down below. You click on that. That's your entry form. You can print that out, fill it out. That's going to be in Shelbyville, Tennessee, May the 9th. If none of that works, just call Paul Klippa. He's the one that's putting this on, him and his son. And Paul's number is 931-691-7598. And if you want to, Tim or somebody, you can put that number in the chat if you remember what it is. Deej, I didn't know that you were a cancer survivor.
Yes, I'm a breast cancer survivor.
Now, how many years ago has that been?
I was diagnosed in 2011, went through treatments till 2012, and was done St. Patrick's Day 2012.
Great.
So I went through chemo and radiation both.
Yeah. And doing well now.
I was actually considered 0 stage. I was a hair over into stage 1. So I caught it very quickly. The mammography did not catch it. I caught it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's good. And, catching that early is always a plus. I mean, your odds are obviously greater when you find it early like that rather than waiting until it's already done too much damage. Well, that's great. And I didn't know that about you, and I'm so happy that that is behind you and that you're feeling great and everything and that you're out there swinging those metal detectors. You talked about the ACE 400, but that's not the only detector that you use, is it?
No, I use ACE. I use it on every permission except farm fields because for some reason I don't do that well with it in the farm fields. I don't know why. But, I'm kind of stuck on the 5x8 coil for getting around in the sniper coil for getting around the iron. But how I came upon my next detector, I had been talking to Justin because I had a farm field that I didn't know if it was the high tension wires that were a quarter of a mile away that were affecting the machine, or if there was just so much iron in the ground, it was nulling the machine out. Well, it was too much iron in the ground. And it was literally giving the machine's brain so many signals that it could not do its job because it was just being bombarded. And it would literally stall and take a minute to recover and then stall again. So I had been talking to Justin DePace, and he suggested the Technetics T2. He said, you need to get a machine that you can ground balance, and make adjustments. And I really think that machine would do well for you. And it was the best machine I've ever had for farm fields. Yeah. I love that machine. I have found so many cool things with that machine.
Yeah. I've never owned one of those. Tennessee Jeff got one. I think it was last year that he got one, and I hunted 2 or 3 times with him with that. And he was really impressed with it, and we hunted a place. It was no colonial type site where he found the old. I can't even remember what that Cohen was or token that he found there, but he found that with T2. And so it's a good machine. There's no doubt about it.
It's a good machine. It's got lightning fast return on it. It goes super deep. I pulled a large scent at 13 inches with it, and it was as if it was 4 inches deep. It just banging signal.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with it.
Now, what kind of coil are you using on that? I know Jeff had 3 different coils.
I'm just using the stock coil.
But it's kind of
with the machine.
It's kind of oval, isn't it? It's not a round coil. Yeah.
No, it's not a round coil. It's an oval coil.
Yeah. And I don't know what there is about the elliptical coil like that. I think is what the technical term is for it.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple of those for my GPX, my MindLab Pulse machine. And I really, really like that elliptical coil. I think that I think it's got a little bit better separation, and on the bigger ones, I think you've got more depth and everything. But
I can swing my machine as fast as I can over 15 targets, and it will pick up every single target.
Amazing.
It's super fast.
Now, have you ever hunted with anybody that is using the Equinox? And to see how the recovery would compare on that.
I hunt with didn't hunt last year. Well, maybe in the spring I hunted with Michigan man Floyd. He just got a Knox 800, I think, last spring.
Right.
And that, but no, we didn't really compare it. But it kept up with it. We were both finding good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I do swing a lot with Don, Detection Connection, and he runs the Mind Lab CTX 3030.
Right.
And that. And
well, I don't think the 3030 is.
He finds more silver than I do.
Yeah.
But you got to swing over it to find it, you know?
That's true. I mean, and, you know, you can't really just go out and have an equal comparison, because maybe you didn't walk over any silver and he did. But I owned a CTX 3030. I don't think that it was near as fast as the Knox is. And I know it didn't have the multi-frequency capability that the Knox has. And I'll just be honest with you. I'm more impressed with the Knox than I ever was with CTX, even though I found a lot of stuff. But like you said, if I was hunting yards and I was after coins, I would want, and I've still got an E-Track, but I would either want an E-Track or a CTX, because nothing identifies silver and coins from the junk that is really close to that, which would be hard to determine on other machines. And that's because you've got the two different numbers to look at.
Right.
And, you know, they've got their spot. I mean, every machine has its strengths and it has its weaknesses. I don't care. They haven't made the perfect metal detector yet. No,
not yet. And I use both detectors, and I use them for different reasons, you know. So, but when I get a house permission, I use both machines. I go over the yard with both machines in different conditions. Every which way I can to pull everything I can out of that permission. So,
and a lot of especially a lot of newcomers, I think, don't understand that just changing from, like me, I use my Equinox. If I'm just hunting a house out, I use my Equinox and I use my AT Pro. I will hunt with both of those machines. Now, I love to scout with the AT Pro. No bones about it. I tell Debbie every time I see her from Mind Lab, I say, I can't help it. I just love to scout with an AT Pro. But whenever I get in all those square nails and all of that iron and everything, I love that little 6-inch coil on the Knox because of the separation that it has. But I can take both machines and find good stuff. And it's all a matter of just learning your machine. And the only way you can do that, and this, is just you gotta have time on the ground.
Yep. It takes time to learn what your machine is trying to tell you.
That's right. And so, don't you think last
Christmas, Chad got me the 5-inch double D coil for the T2, and just using it in my yard before it froze up and in a park, I can't believe how deep it goes, and I can get within 1 to 2 inches of a fence.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to take that to all my permissions that I already have and go over the yards again, the house permissions.
Right.
To see what I missed with the Ace that doesn't go 13 inches deep. I mean, I have no difference in depth with this double D 5-inch coil from the stock coil. It's unbelievable. It's just amazing. So I'm really happy with that. I'm anxious to try that out.
Yeah, and, that's not a coil that you're going to go out into a farm field where you've got a whole lot of territory that you're hunting. You're going to want a bigger coil for that, but whenever you're in those confined areas around a fence, around obstacles or anything, even in a cornfield, a lot of times I will go to a small coil just to be able to work around the corn stalks and everything, because you can't swing a big coil in that.
Right. Right.
So it really makes a difference. It sure does. Hey, we're coming up on another commercial break right here. And let me run this, and then we'll come back and talk about some bottle digging. T-shirts are a perfect way to get your brand recognized, whether you're talking about a business, a club, a sports team, your YouTube channel, or whatever. But you may have asked, where can I get quality, affordable shirts on demand? Well, I'm glad you asked. RELICS Radio uses DetectTees.com for all of our T-shirts, long sleeve shirts, and hoodies. That's DETECTEES.com. Ken and Mark Guthrie make quality shirts that last, they ship quick, and best of all, they're affordable. So if you need customized apparel, then go to detectees.com and be sure and tell them that Relics Radio sent you. And Ken and Mark Guthrie are two fantastic guys. I consider them to be very good friends. They've been with this show almost ever since this show started. And if you'll go to the Relics Radio Facebook group page, I put a link on there to all of the Relics Radio merchandise, so check it out. If you don't want that, they carry all kinds of other metal detecting shirts and hoodies and cooling towels. Won't make me mad if you buy somebody else from that. Or if you've got a club or if you've got a sports team, check them out. They can make shirts for you. Deej, talk to me about bottle digging. I know that you do this, and it's kind of a family event with you, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I went on a collaboration hunt with Red Beam 58 2 summers ago. He's up in mid-Michigan. And I met this guy, Ryan. And he asked me if he could go bottle digging with me. He'd never been bottle digging. And I said, sure, because he lives about an hour from me. And he came out and had a blast and then brought one of his daughters back with him the next time. And we did a video on that one, too, and they both found some great bottles. And then I asked my top permission, the 1880s Victorian farmhouse owners, if we could come out to the Creekside bottle dump there, and if we could camp last summer. And we had a blast. We had a blast, and the kids, we had a half a day, 1.5 days, just adults, and then the kids came back from vacationing with their grandparents, and then they got to dig with us a couple of days. So we had a good time.
And you had 2 or 3 videos on that, didn't you? Am I mistaken on that?
Well, I have several videos that have the kids in it, but that was last Labor Day weekend, and I think I did a series of 3, and then I did a solo. Labor Day, I was by myself. And I just had Tanner, my dog, with me.
And that was maybe the live stream that you did?
No, I did a live stream where I was digging by myself.
Okay.
That was at my newest dump permission.
Yeah.
And the owner of my permission called the home site of tragedy, the one where the tornado went through and destroyed the house and killed everybody in the family except one person.
Oh, man.
He told me he remembered being a little boy and riding on a tractor with his grandfather, pulling a wagon behind with the garbage to this dump. Back in the 1890s, the farmers in this one section of the township all worked together to dig a drainage ditch because their farm fields were flooding. And they made a dump on this drainage ditch, and he told me right where it was. And that's where I did my very first bottle digging live stream last fall.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. It's it's kind of grainy, the video, because I'm out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And I'm using my phone, but it wasn't too bad considering, the situation. But everybody seemed to love it, so I definitely want to do more of those.
Yeah.
And this is the same dump that I found that creepy jar.
we will get to that in the next segment.
Okay.
We sure will. We'll get into that. Now, do you ever dig any privies or trash pits? Or, of course, I guess a dump is just a big trash pit.
A dump is like a trash pit, yeah.
But what about privies?
No, I've never dug a privy yet, but my 1880 permission, the daughter, I think, has talked her dad into letting us dig up the old privy behind the house. So that's a possibility for this summer.
Now,
she has a new neighbor that's got a beautiful brand spanking new backhoe that's just itching to use it, and he said he'd be more than happy to come over and dig out the majority of it for us. Huh. So that's definitely in the works here for this summer.
Sounds interesting, I tell you. Do you use a rod to probe with to find those, or just word of mouth, or how is it that you find these the trash pits and what have you?
Every farm permission I get, I walk the property before I do anything, and I try to find it if they don't know where it is. I do that. Now, the creekside dump, the big dumps that I dig at the most, that I've dug at the most, that is along a creek that was dredged back in the 70s. And they dredged it out because the farm field started, the creek filled in and the farm field started flooding again. So when they dredged it out, they covered up the dump. So I will use a privy pole. It's made out of spring steel. It came from out west. I ordered it from out west somewhere. I got a 5-foot privy pole that I use. But before I do that, I take my metal detector out to determine where the dump starts and where it ends. And I'll be digging at that 1880 dump for years, absolute years. That thing is over 100 feet long on both sides of the creek.
And obviously, with a metal detector, they dumped metal, they dumped iron and everything in there, and so you're going to get hit. So that's a pretty good way to find it, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's where I found some. I can tell if it's brass or what it is.
Right.
By what my machine's telling me, and I'll say, well, we got to dig deeper. It's still down there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still use my metal detector when I bottle dig.
Yeah. I guess I had thought about that because that's the way we find trash pits at Civil War camps, the winter camps where either a trash pit or a hut is you want some kind of big iron object will get you in those pits or huts like that. So wouldn't be any different from this. And it's just unbelievable all of the different things that you find that people threw away years ago, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. We found everything at the 1880 dump, the Creekside dump. We found everything from milking equipment to a tractor seat to an old enamel stove. Last summer, because as I'm digging, we're also putting all the shards and the bottles that we dig up that we don't want, we're putting them in buckets, and then the owner is hauling them to recycle them, because she's trying to clean it up. She wants to eventually have that spot be a spot so that family can come and camp, and she'll have a picnic table there and all that once we get it all gone through. Right. She knows it's going to be years. So every time I get done digging, I do a cleanup and that. And, she's taken an old round watering trough, put it on a trailer, and hauled it out there with the tractor, and then we've got all these 5-gallon buckets besides.
And you just gather up the trash and put it in that big barrel. Yeah.
Yep, and she's recycling the metal, and that helps pay for repairs on her dad's house, because the house, as you can see from all the videos, it's old. So,
don't you just love working with landowners and homeowners that want to work with you?
Her, I wouldn't be able to pursue my hobby. I can go out there anytime. I always call before or text her before I go out. And she keeps telling me, you don't have to do that. I said, well, I don't know if you guys are going to have company over or something,
Yeah. I've got several permissions. I've got several permissions like that I don't even holler at them. Every now and then I will, but, I don't have to. And they say, no, just come on and hunt. But some of them, like this lady, will go out of their way to help you in a way. Of course, it's helping her too, by providing something, for you to collect all the trash and everything in. Now, other than the jar that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, what are some of the better bottles that you've dug out? And kind of another question to kind of go along with that. If you're finding a dump that has, say, more modern stuff, and I'm saying modern, like in the 40s or 50s,
right? If
you get a layer down below that, are you getting into the 1910s? If you get a layer below that, are you getting into the 1890s? Just answer all that.
The deeper we have gone, the more corktop bottles we have found. But we've only gone 4 feet deep, and this bank is 25 feet above the creek.
Wow.
So we figure, and I'm still getting hits with the metal detector, so I figure we got another 4 or 5 feet to go before we get the oldest layer.
Yeah. And watching these people, watching their videos that do bottle dig, man, they dig some massive holes. I mean, absolute massive holes. And looks dangerous to me to dig a big hole like that and get off in it.
Well, my dirt is really, really hard at this dump. There's a lot of clay in it. And we're digging like a pit that's probably 15 by 15. So it's not like a small hole or anything that's going to cave in on us.
Right.
What the landowner wants to do is she wants to bring in her neighbor's excavator and have him cut, some big sized trenches in it, so it's easier for us to get at the bottles. And that.
There you go. Of course, you're going to damage.
We're hoping that he's good on his word.
Yeah. Of course, you're going to damage where you're cutting the trenches, maybe damage something there, but then it's going to open up.
It's going to open up so much land because, we've only hit maybe 25 feet by 15 feet.
Yeah.
The 2 spots of the dump we've been digging, and it goes for 100 feet on both sides of the creek.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing how big this thing is. The first house was built in 1850, and then the doctor's wife wanted a bigger house. So they rented out the other one, and then they built this one on a piece of property next to it. And there's just so much. Every spring, new stuff comes up. Every spring, I find stuff.
Yeah.
Even when I've already detected it because of the freezing and the thawing of the ground up here. So.
Yeah, that is one benefit that you guys have up north. And by the way, everybody, she's in Michigan, and I guess the ground is froze right now, so it's working.
Yeah, 13 degrees right now.
Yeah, it will be working stuff up. We don't have that phenomena much here in southern Kentucky because rarely does our ground freeze. And if it does, it's probably just an inch or two. I can remember once or twice over the past 20 years that our ground froze to where I couldn't go out and metal detect because it was just froze too hard. Hey, Deej, let me take our last commercial break right here. And when we come back, folks, we're going to talk about that creepy time capsule that she found. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger magazine is available in both print and digital formats. So no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671. And be sure and tell them that you heard it on RELICS Radio. And it's a good thing that we're not on live stream because about the time or just prior to running that commercial there, The machine that I normally run, the commercial zone, would not pull this one up for some reason. And I had to slip another machine in here while we were talking, but got her done. American Digger Magazine and Relic Roundup, as most of you know, I produce that show as well on Monday night with Butch Holcomb and Jeff Lubert, and we're on every Monday night right here on Spreaker at 9 o'clock Eastern. So, Deej, set the stage for this creepy time capsule that you found.
Okay, well, we got a couple of warm days here in Michigan, and it was up to 43, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to the Old Timers dump, which is my newest dump permission, and see if I can even get through the ground. I even took my rock hammer with me, just in case. And I'm digging away, and yeah, it's pretty frozen, but on the previous dig, when I did that live stream dig that I had done, I had discovered that there was a hollow spot underneath this tree that I'm digging by. Well, I couldn't get through the earth around that, and then I discovered inside that hollow hole, it was not frozen. So I started digging in there, and I was pulling out pieces of plate and, broken glass shards and that. And I took my phone and turned on the flashlight on it, and I'm looking in there because I didn't think to bring a flashlight, but I hit something with my digging trowel, and it made a clinking noise like it was a whole bottle. So I use my flashlight, and I look inside that hole, and I see that there's a jar in there of some sort.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was old or not, but it looked like it was whole. So I turned my camera on, and I reached down in the hole. The first thing I pulled out, I think, was a piece of sharp, hard plastic. I said, well, that couldn't have been shining back at me. Reached down farther back and pulled out this jar. And I started looking at it, and it had brown color newspaper clippings in it. And I started looking through the glass because I couldn't get it open. It wouldn't open. And saw, these articles, newspaper articles. I figured it was going to be a jar full of obituaries or something, which can be very valuable when it comes to the genealogy part of saving history, or for museums in those particular areas that don't have that information, especially when I saw the ones I was seeing were in the South, and there were so many towns that were burned, in the Civil War. I didn't know how old it was. And then I started looking at the jar, and I'm thinking, well, this jar doesn't look that old, but the newspaper clippings look old. It was just weird. And every article I could see looked like some kind of a tragedy.
I know.
Who the heck would say something like this?
Whenever you pulled it out, let me back up just a little bit, because everything else is frozen. You've got your rock hammer, and you're beating on that bank, and you're not doing anything. I mean, it's just like concrete, and you're really just wasting your time. But then that hole right there where the jar is not frozen, and that little tunnel in there was not frozen in there. It was weird. I mean, eventually I dug enough dirt out that then I hit frozen dirt again. Right.
But for some reason it was not frozen by the tree roots.
And after it was all over with, and after I watched the video, of course, the first thing that was bothering me was that you were sticking your arm up in this dark hole and not knowing what was there,
I took a dead tree branch and stuck it up in there to make sure there was no critters in there. The last thing I need is to have like a raccoon or something come out after.
But after I watched it, and we're going to get to it, but after you opened the jar and after we seen everything that was in the jar, it kind of dawned on me, why was that little pocket not frozen? Was it something to do with the contents of that jar? Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know.
But as you turned it around, you could start to read, like you said, it was newspaper clippings of tragedies, of deaths, and things. And
I know. It was like And I'm thinking, I can see there's a lot of newspaper clippings in this jar, and I'm thinking, there's no way in the world anybody could have that much tragedy in their life. My God. So, I've got this kind of a sixth sense about stuff. I'm not psychic or anything like that, but I'll get a bad feeling something's going to happen before it does. I don't know what it is. It's happened in the past to me. I do believe in things that you cannot explain. I have seen ghosts before. I've never seen a ghost at this dump, never had an experience at this dump. Didn't get a bad feeling from it, just thought that the jar was creepy, the contents were creepy, but I'm not bringing that thing in my house. It's out in the shed. And I'm not bringing it in the house until I have somebody that knows what they're doing check the jar to make sure there's nothing negative attached to it. I have a friend who is a paranormal researcher that goes after that with the scientific aspect, and he has machines he can check it with. And that. Plus, he is also helping me research the content. Before I put it in the shed, I took pictures of every single article, and Randy and I have been researching this. So he's supposed to come next week and take a look at the jar, do tests on it, and all that, and tell me more. We've been chatting in between, what he's found, what I found. So far, we are not finding any connection between the victims. None whatsoever. No connection family-wise. So, but we come up with a few other cool things that just seem uncanny about it. So, I do plan on doing either a video or a live stream on our research and what we're coming up with. But it just, I never in my wildest dreams did I think I would pull something like this out of the ground.
And I couldn't help but laugh because she said, I want to put it in the car and warm it up. I'm not taking this thing in my house. And you were turning it around. You were trying to take the lid off. And I'm sitting there watching the video, and I'm saying, Deej, take this thing home and run some hot water over the lid right there. Of course, you were afraid that the lid might have a hole.
I was afraid that the lid had holes in it, and I didn't want the newspaper damaged.
Right. But whenever you finally do get it open, and she's not in the house now, she's on a table out in the yard, and you can tell that it's cold out there. But she takes this thing out there and starts pulling out these papers of deaths and explosions and tragedies, lynchings. A young boy got run over by a cart and his body almost cut in. I mean, just dark stuff. But then, and you're in Michigan now, and the first town that I noticed was Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I thought, what is Chattanooga, Tennessee doing there? Then Paducah, Kentucky, then Covington, Kentucky, then Huntsville, Alabama, and I thought, oh man, this is some serial killer or something that's been down in the South and has moved up north. But then also there's California, there's a clipping from Boston, and then there's another that was IT.
Indian territory.
Yeah, Indian territory. You didn't know what that was, and you said, I have no idea what IT is. Neither did I at the time.
That's what it is.
Yeah. What was the date on all of these? Was there a common theme on date?
Yes, they were all from 1906.
A particular month? Or was it all?
July. It looks like July, possibly late June and July.
Wow. I have absolutely no idea why somebody would do something like this, unless it is a serial killer in training or something, or somebody that is just
something, or somebody's just got a terrible fascination with death. I don't know, or there's always the possibility that somebody had lost somebody to tragedy the same month, and maybe one of these articles is that person, and they just cut all the tragedy. There was so much of it that month, they just cut them all, put it in a jar, and buried it to get over it. I don't know. I'm not sure. The thing that creeped me out the most when I picked up that one article that I was talking about the hospital, I think it was Elizabeth something hospital, and I started reading the street, and immediately I knew where it was because my son is not far from Covington. Okay, my son lives in Erlanger, Kentucky, which is right next to Covington.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, and then for Christmas, Don of Detection Connection gave me an antique liquor bottle from Covington, Kentucky, and I'm thinking, and now I'm finding a newspaper clipping from Covington, Kentucky. What in the world is going on? And that's when I knew for sure I was not taking this jar in my house. Something was up. There was just too many coincidences.
If I had some creepy music, now would be the time to play it, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Now, what connections have? And by the way, guys, I was trying to put the phone number in the chat here and wasn't able to. It's 270-495-0315. If somebody will put that in for me. I don't know what's going on here tonight. Whew, it's a eerie thing that's happening here. All of my stuff is breaking, but it's 270-495-0315. If somebody will put that in the chat, we're opening up the phone lines because I want you guys to get involved in this as well. But what other connections, Deej, have you come up with on your research?
Randy says that he has found some connection that somebody connected, whether it was the person that died or the company involved, if it was a company tragedy, they all had something to do with the cattle business.
Okay. And Steve Adams makes a good point here in the chat. He said a serial killer would be hard-pressed to cover that much country in 1906, and that's exactly right.
Oh, yeah, 1906. That's still a horse-drawn wagon. Only the rich had automobiles, maybe not till 1909 or 1907.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Maybe trains, but you know what train is going to run through all of these places. I don't know. I guess it could, but then you got California and Boston, and then you got the Indian Territory, and you don't know where that's at.
Yeah, and then one of the articles was from England. Was about an American-built train that crashed in England.
Well, that throws a monkey wrench into the whole deal, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're still working on it. We're still not sure. But I do plan on doing an update once we figure out everything there is to figure out that we can. It just seems strange. It's just really strange. And, everybody's asking me, well, have you had any experiences there? Because I have a cellar hole I've had experiences at, and I didn't go to it last summer because I couldn't get Ryan to go with me. he, not that he didn't want to, but I think my second video I ever did was at the cellar hole, and I've been restoring antique crockery from the cellar hole for the museum and the owner. And I've actually had somebody ask me, what are you looking for? 2 different days. Both days I got up and climbed out of the hole, and no one was there the first day. And the second day it happened to me, I climbed out of the hole, and there's a doe standing there looking at me. So each time I tell him what I'm looking for. It was I'd seen ghosts before, so I'm not afraid for that. But this creeped me out because I didn't see anybody. I didn't see an image, nothing. And I've even talked to Randy about investigating that cellar hole. And I said, I don't want to do it by myself. You know what you're doing. Do you want to do that? Oh, yeah. So we may even do that because that house was destroyed in a tornado in 1895, May of 1895 or 1896. And my son has a hunting camera that he doesn't use that time of year, and it's an infrared, and we just may go and set that up there and see if we can pick anything up.
Yeah.
So that's another possibility for this year. So I don't know how much traveling I'll be doing other than maybe Canada or Ohio and possibly to see Gypsy, But because I've got so many collaborations that I need to do here in Michigan that people have asked me, and I want to hunt with everybody that I can. But those are some possibilities of some things, that we might step into that realm of the paranormal for a little bit when it comes to the cellar hole. So that's the only place I've ever had an experience, digging.
And it's amazing. Until I started this show and started talking with different people, there are so many people that have had experiences, and everybody all of the regulars that listen to this show, the story that I've told about Okie that came down from Washington State and came and hunted with me here. And we went up in 5 Mile Holler, and something actually grabbed him and tried to pull him down. And there was nobody around him. And, I can't explain that. I've never had anything happen to me like that. Never in any situation. But I've had 2 or 3 people on the show that have spoke about, these things happening to them.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. But back to this jar, I cannot imagine why anybody would have any kind of fascination. There has to be some kind of connection between all of those stories.
And I'm familiar with the early local families, or the families that were here in that time frame, in that area, in that township. I'm familiar with the names. And I've been trying to connect the dots between any of these victims. There's got to be at least one, I figure, that's somehow connected to somebody in Michigan or that moved up here from there. I haven't found them yet. But, I'll be checking with people at the Historical Society. Our Historical Society is closed right now. It opens up in April, but we'll do what we can before that happens, and I'll do a video, and then I'll follow up later. But I don't know. I have not been able to wrap my brain around why somebody would save these. It's just weird.
I know it. And I'll tell you something, other guys, while we've been on this subject, my unit that I normally play all of my bumper music and my ads on has quit. And my machine that runs the chat over here where I can watch the chat, it has quit. I've got
that is so weird.
I've got another cell phone now that I'm trying to watch the chat on, but hair's standing up on my back. I tell you, hey, somebody call in and talk to us about this. Let's at least make sure that the phone lines are working. 270-495-0315. Hey, while we're waiting on that, Deej, why don't you talk about some of the collaborations that you've done?
Okay. I do a lot of collaboration hunts with Don of Detection Connection. We've done everything from schools to mostly farm fields. Don is a wizard when it comes to metal detecting. He's been detecting for 40-some years, and he is really good at getting permissions and researching. He researches like I do. And he called me up one day on a Thursday. He knew what time I got home from work. And he calls me and he goes, "You need to come down here and detect with me." Well, when? Well, tomorrow. Or he says, "You need to come." Yeah, tomorrow. And I'm going, "Well, where are we detecting?" He goes, "I got a ghost town permission." I said, "You're kidding me." And I looked at Jackson. He goes, "I know who's packing their bags." And I was on the road in 3 hours driving down to Ohio. And I found my oldest coin a year ago last October with Don. I had gone with my boyfriend to visit friends in Maryland because he's originally from Maryland, and detected with one other channel while I was there. And on the way back, Don said, well, when you get near this town in Ohio, call me, and I'll take you out on one of my farm fields. And I went out detecting with him. Now, before I went on this hunt, my oldest coin was an 1854 large cent that I found in my own backyard, 13 inches deep, under the fire pit. There's a burn pile area that was there when I bought the house. And I'm out detecting with Don. I did find that with my Ace 400 because I didn't have my T2 yet at that point. And I dug an 1844 Bank of Montreal half penny token in this farm field with him. I was over the moon. It was my new oldest coin. It was 10 years older than the oldest coin I had. And then he's invited me back. I found some cool things. My new oldest coin is an 1835 large cent. So I will definitely be digging with Don. Mr. Digger has asked. He's working on a permission, and he wants me to come over there. He's in Michigan. Wants me to come dig with him. Aaron's detecting and collecting. He collects baseball cards, too. Yeah. I'm supposed to do a collab with him. He's down by Madison Heights or Warren, somewhere like that. And then Red Bean 58. He always invites me over there once or twice a year. And that. I'm supposed to go bottle digging exploring and bottle digging with Jimmy in Canada. And Chrissy, Outdoorsy Gal, always invited me to come visit her this summer. And Gypsy of Zero Discrimination has invited me to go dig with her.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of offers out there. I'm going to try to fit in as many as I can, which I'm retired now. So the company that I worked for sold, and they were able to save everybody's job but mine. But that's okay. I went ahead and retired.
If you hadn't dug the jar, it might have stayed. Hey, Scott Hansen was trying to call in and something else. I can't add anybody. It's coming in on my phone. It's not coming in on the main unit here. And
oh, no.
I'm trying to call you on this unit and add you. Scott, don't know if the call is coming through or anything, but if you're getting a call from Kentucky or 270-495-0315, it's me here at RELICS Radio, so you can answer the phone. So obviously we're not going to be able to get anybody on tonight. That's a bummer too. Deej, you have wrecked the whole business right here tonight.
I'm sorry.
With the jar deal.
The jar is not in the house, so I don't know how it's doing it.
And he said that there's nothing there. So
oh my goodness,
I don't know. That's all that I can do, Scott, is try to add you here like that, but it's just not working. And I did update Skype, but and the add feature wasn't working on some of the others. And Tim Henderson's trying to call now. Tim, I can't take calls. I can't get them in. I wish that I could. I guess maybe I could answer it on this phone here. And I'll tell you what, let me try to do that. Let me just try to answer this and hook it up on where the music runs. And I'll have to turn it down, I guess. Are you there, Tim? Hey, Tim.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh man, that's a ghost. I'm not even going to try that. I have no idea. That may or may not been Tim Henderson right there.
Oh my.
I think he said, "What are you digging?" I don't know. It's just a strange night all the way around. Everything is breaking. Deej, if you could hunt with anybody, who would it be that you haven't hunted with? Who? And I know that that's kind of a tricky question to ask, but who have you got on your bucket list? Few people that you'd love to hunt with.
Now, I'd love to hunt with Jason Quarterhorter.
Yep.
And Gypsy, of course.
Yep.
And I would especially love to hunt with Don in England.
Yeah.
Digger Don?
Yeah.
I watch her videos a lot, too. She can, they have so much older stuff there, and my family came from, my mother's side, my mother's grandmother's maiden name was White, Wight. And they came from Allendale, Northumberland, England. And I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I'd love to go and detect there. I
know it. So I'd love to go over there too, because like you say, there's just so much history. And Tim, I seen that you were trying to call in. I can't add them on the main machine, and I can't add on a supplement. I don't know if that was you or not there a while ago, but it was scary what we heard, wasn't it, Deej?
Yeah. It was like way far off and very faint.
What are you digging?
Yeah. What am I digging?
Yeah, it sure was. Sure. And by the way, guys, or folks, I put the link to this video of this jar that we're talking about. I put that link in on the RELICS Radio Facebook group page. You really need to go and watch that, and you'll see. Somebody said that was 5 Mile Holler calling. We've got a haunted place here too, but you really need to go and see that video. And Ambient Girl Relic Hunter put in the chat earlier, whenever I could see it, maybe if you would just take a picture of each of those articles and post them on your Facebook page, or post them on the RELICS Radio Facebook page. You could have a lot of people that could help you maybe do some research, and maybe somebody else will see a link there that you don't see,
Right.
And I know some of it is controversial, because there was an article there,
a lynching of a black man of color.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but that's part of this jar, and so and we're talking July 1906. Things were quite a bit different then. And
114 years ago.
Yeah. And Outdoorsy Girl said she lost her signal. That ain't my fault, I don't think. I guess we're still live. We're showing that we're still live.
Yeah, we're still showing that you're live.
Yeah. Just a strange situation here. Other than the jar and some of the other stuff that you've talked about here, what's the greatest find that you think you found with your metal detector? What's your favorite?
I found the oldest artifact for a certain township that was one of the earliest settlers. I found a button that was only manufactured between 1829 and 1835. The township was not founded until 1838.
Okay.
So this will be going in a shadow box. I ordered some Riker boxes to put all these relics in, which I've never... Anybody has any suggestions how to do this? I was going to check with Mallyman24. Because my home site of tragedy, I've got a giant box for that, because I found so many relics there.
Right.
And then this other permission I found everything from the 40s back to the 1829 to 35 button, which still has gold leaf on it. So So, and I was able to get the manufacturer's name, and those two men only made buttons together those few years.
Yeah. Are you donating things to a local museum or historical society or anything in your area?
What I do is whatever I find, the family can donate it. I'll put it in a shadow box. It'll be donated by them, dug by me.
Right.
And then it'll go to the Historical Society. And then what most of these people want done is, if it's not being displayed, they want it returned. So it's basically on loan.
Right.
So it's still theirs. But as long as it's being displayed, it can stay at the museums. So...
And outdoorsy gal, I tell you what, just refresh your page there. You're going to have to listen to an ad. That's Spreaker doing that, but that should get you back up and going. That happens every now and then. Just refresh the show and see if that works. Either that, or you're going to have to come back and listen to the archive here in a little bit. Yeah, that's great. That you're donating those things, and it's also great that you are donating them with the understanding that it's only on loan, because you don't want that stuff to be put in a back room or a drawer or something.
Right.
I do the same
or
thing.
Be sold or anything like that.
Right. I do the same thing with our local museum here. I've donated quite a bit of stuff, but I have the understanding that it is still mine, and it's on loan,
right.
you know. And as long as they want to display it, and every now and then I will go up there and give a talk, and they'll have people that come in, you know. And as long as they do that, I'm fine with it. I want everybody to see it. I don't want it all crammed in drawers or bags or anything, boxes here at my house.
That's what I've done with my latest find. My last December dig before the ground froze up, I noticed that this house that I always wanted to get permission for was for sale. And it was owned by a friend of mine who used to be a past president of the Historical Society I'm a member of. So I saw they were working outside, and I went over and talked to her, and she's going, I was wondering what you were doing next door. Well, before the company I worked for changed hands, my boss told me, the front used to be a parking lot, a dirt parking lot. You need to go over my front yard of the business to make sure there's nothing important in there. So I metal detected over there, and I practiced leave no trace. Well, I had dug over 40 holes in that front yard, and she goes, well, when are you going to do it? I said, I already did it. She goes, where? I said, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I practiced leave no trace. You can't tell I've been there. I said, I noticed Grandpa's house is for sale. And she says, yeah. And I said, could I detect it and try to see if there's anything of historical value that you might want to go to the museum? Well, let me talk to my husband. So we walked over and talked to him. He says, go for it. So I dug a lot of trash, which, you know, it's a home site that's changed hands many, many, many times. But he had told me where the old outhouse used to be. So I detected the path from the back door to the outhouse. And I dug a Ladies of the Maccabees hive medallion, okay? And this was a fraternal order, kind of like Masons.
Right.
One of those secret organizations. But this was the woman's group that was affiliated with Knights of the Maccabees. And this medallion was only made between 1886 and 1907 or 1904. I forget what the dates were. And it was beautiful. It came out of the ground. You could tell what it was. I ran next door to because that's where they lived. Next door, showed them. We researched it. They're both so excited about it. I've ordered a special shadow box Riker frame for that. And I was able to find out that that particular town that house is in did have a Ladies of the Maccabees hive, what they call HIVE, like a beehive.
Right.
This medallion has a beehive on it.
Right.
and found out the number of that hive. And we never realized at the Historical Society, not all of us anyway, we're still waiting to get a hold of a gentleman that's out of town. He's a snowbird, to find out if we have any information at the museum about the ladies of the Maccabees. Because I could have sworn years ago there was a photograph with the woman that would have lived at this house back then with a bunch of women. So she's really excited. She's going to be donating it, and it'll list them as donating and being dug by me. So that's opened up a new, being a member there. I finally got somebody to give me a chance and let me dig. So hopefully that will open up more permissions.
And I think
now she wants me to pull one of my strings, because years ago I was a florist for many years, and I took care of the state of Michigan. I had an account, or the state of Michigan had an account with me. So I got some favors I haven't pulled. Well, he grew up in a house that's gone, that is now part of a state recreation area. And you cannot metal detect on state recreation area, not all of them. He says he buried, as a kid, next to the big tree that was in his backyard, a cast iron motorcycle. And he wants to go back and dig it up. He's 90. I think he's going to be 92 years old. So I'm going to try to pull some strings and use one of my favors and see if I can get permission to take him out there on a four-wheeler, drive out, and then have him ride on a four-wheeler to the tree. He says he can walk right to it from the road, and get permission to dig that up. So that's another thing that I'm going to try to do this summer, but I don't know if we'll get permission, because the state's really funny about stuff like that.
That would be an amazing story right there. That would be a national story. I
know.
National television and newspapers would pick something like that up, just because of all of the elements of it. You've got a older man and a cast iron motorcycle, and wow. Yeah. That would.
And I've got to be careful how I do it, because we just discovered, his wife and I just discovered, that there is a schoolhouse in this particular township that was a log cabin that is not on any of the maps, and he knows where it is.
Yeah.
So I want to get permission for both places, to metal detect one for just artifacts for the museum, and then take him to try to find his cast iron motorcycle.
Yeah. Sounds good. And, whenever when you begin to donate things and be associated with local historical things, it does open up a lot of doors and everything for you. There's no doubt. I was laughing. Jeffrey said this has been one strange show. It's been one thing after another all night. And he said, now the lights are blinking. That's not our fault,
It's not.
Jeffrey.
We didn't do it. We didn't do it.
We did not do it. But I tell you, you've been a great guest tonight, Deej, and I apologize to everybody that the phone calls won't work or didn't work. Don't know that our music's going to work as we close the show out here in a little bit, but we'll get all this sorted out. Deej, take that jar and go put it back in that hole.
I know. If I do that, we're going to dig in a different section of the dump.
Do you have plans?
Well, I'm going to get Randy's professional opinion. If he tells me to take it back, I will. If he tells me it's fine, I'll keep it.
Nope.
So
yeah, but I believe I would take pictures of each of those articles and put them on.
I did,
and
I got them on my phone, and
let everybody look at that. And you get a lot of eyes on something. And, we may all come up with some conspiracies, but at least it'll give you something to do now that you're retired, But, this has been a great show. Everybody's saying it's been a great show. It's been a fun show. Hey, guys, go and check out this this video that Digging with Deej did. It's on the RELICS Radio Facebook group page. I've got a link to it there. In the description, I've got a link to her Facebook and her personal Facebook, the Digging with Deej Facebook, and also her YouTube. But go ahead and give out all of that information, how people can find you, Deej.
Right. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. And I'm on YouTube. And just go to YouTube and search Diggin with Deej, Diggin with Deej, capital D-E-E-J.
Yep. And, if you do that, you're going to find it. And I can't wait. I tell you what, I'll have you back on the show, and we'll do a follow-up on this if you find anything else about it. And also, would love to have you on the show if you get with the older gentleman, especially if you guys go and dig up that cast iron motorcycle. But,
definitely.
No doubt about it.
Maybe we can do something with him and his wife.
Yeah.
I'll have to see what time he goes to bed because, they're getting up there, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that's kind of a timely thing. Hello, Stephanie. She's just now getting in. You're going to have to go back and listen to this one because it's paranormal all the way through, Stephanie. But this is kind of a timely thing, being that he is of that age, and you want to get him out there and get that information,
right?
Just as quick as you can. But hang on the line. I'm going to close the show out here, and you've been a great guest, and I certainly do appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much for asking me. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Okay. And you hang on, and we'll say our goodbyes off the air here in just a minute. Hey, great show, guys. I tell you, I knew that this was going to be a good show. Very, very interesting show. And we haven't solved everything. We're still looking into this creepy time capsule that Digging with Deej found. And she's going to post those pictures. And we will all be able to get in on that and try to find out more information, try to find some connections with all of the tragedy and everything that was buried in that jar. Hey, don't forget the first annual Middle Tennessee Digging Bash, Saturday, May the 9th at Shelbyville, Tennessee. You can call Paul Klippa at 931-691-7598 or go to the RELICS Radio Facebook group page, and Tim Henderson has put a post in there, and he's also dropped a PDF that is an actual sign-up page, and so you can print that out and get registered and go to that. Be sure and come back next week right here. Same time, same station, next Thursday night at 8 o'clock. See you then. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on RELICS Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker, or you can catch the archive show at RELICS Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and many other podcast outlets. RELICS Radio is also syndicated on the Cutting Edge Radio Network and is broadcast around the world. Please take a minute and hit the like button, and be sure and follow us so you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Diggin' with 7 or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our RELICS Radio Facebook group page or Adventures in History on Facebook. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to relicsradio@outlook.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope that you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.